65. I'm Joe Sanak, your host, and welcome to the Practice of the Practice podcast, where we help you build a thriving private practice you absolutely love. We want both sides of that. We want you to do good marketing, good operations, to feel like you have a solid business, that you're not just giving yourself a job, but actually moving the needle forward. But we also want you to love it. We want you to see your ideal clients. We want you to make that impact on the community in the way that you want to. And we support you in lots of ways. We support you through this podcast. We support you through the Practice Academy, our membership community, one-on-one consulting, all sorts of ways, like the group practice conference coming up in May 2026. We have all sorts of ways that we help support you, the therapist, to have that thriving practice you absolutely love. So I am so excited today that we're going to be talking a little bit about the joy of imperfect love, which I can't wait to dig into this because I feel like we are given this kind of marketing view of the world when it comes to love and relationships. I know when I'm on TikTok, it feels like all I get fed is things that make me say my relationship isn't as good as it could be. And sure, we need to develop, we need to become better people, but also we need to be able to sit inside of just being human and being flawed and being able to screw up without always feeling like we got to fix it. So that's why I'm so excited to have Dr. Carla Marie Manley with me. Carla is a licensed clinical psychologist, author, speaker, and consultant known for her work on resilience, emotional intelligence, and healthy relationship dynamics. With decades of experience in private practice, she blends evidence based psychology with a holistic body mind approach to help individuals and professionals break fear driven patterns, build sustainable habits, and create meaningful personal and professional growth. She is the author of several books, including Joy from Fear, Date Smart, Aging Joyfully, and the newest one, The Joy of Imperfect Love. Carla, welcome to the Practice of the Practice podcast.
Thank you for having me, Joe. It's such a pleasure to be here today.
Yeah, I always love when I'm clicking with a guest and like, wait, we need to hit record. We got to stop chit chatting here. And so, having just met you 10 minutes ago, and to just know that we were just clicking away, I'm so excited to have you on the show today.
Thank you. I just love what I do. I love sharing whatever insights I can offer. So happy to be here.
Yeah, well, let's start with the joy of imperfect love. Maybe tell us, how are we usually taught about love, and why is that wrong?
I'm trained through in a Jungian approach, and what I found in my doctoral program was that myth guides us so much in life. Story, conscious or unconscious, guides us so much in life. And I came to see that I had really learned from childhood forward, and it's not me alone, it's societal, that there is this perfect fairy tale relationship, perfect parents, perfect husband, perfect wife, perfect girlfriend, boyfriend. And we learn this through myths, fairy tales, such as Cinderella, where the young woman meets the young handsome prince and they come together and they live happily ever after. What I didn't know was that some of those very important fairy tales were taken by Brothers Grimm, sanitized, and then romanticized through some big companies who had storybooks to sell and movies to sell and products to sell, so that women in particular, but men as well, were taught to believe that there is this perfect happily ever after relationship. And unfortunately, there isn't. But the fortunate part is when we go back to the old myths, to the true version, it wasn't about man meeting woman, live happily ever after. It was about the female half of the psyche meeting the male half of the psyche, doing that work to grow and flourish imperfectly, and then living joyfully ever after, constantly evolving. So, from that paradigm, I really try to help people, um, no matter the gender, no matter the age, see that so much of that pain and striving that we do is a result of striving for something that is perfect. Perfect in our looks, perfect in our relationships, perfect in our world. When if it were perfect, there would be no growing, no evolving, and thus we expect a perfect love that is something that, if you believe in the divine or whatever you believe in, that it's beyond us. We are destined to be imperfect creatures with imperfect lives and imperfect love. And
Mm,
it's what we do with that imperfection, body, mind, and spirit. Do we accept it and try to evolve and strengthen and grow into fuller, more whole selves, fuller, more whole relationships? Or do we constantly pick at ourselves and pick at other people? Now, I am not saying, just let me bracket, that I don't believe that we should accept abusive or negative or stuck relationships. No, no, no. But I do believe that when people do the work to evolve, magic happens.
mm. And I mean, what does that look like? So I'm thinking, last night, my partner Claire and I, right before bed, had a disagreement. And, it may still be with me the next day, but it's not a big thing that it's like, oh my gosh, like it's relationship shaking. But how important is it to follow up, to try to work on that, to say this hurt me or I didn't like this versus sometimes you just gotta like let it go and realize, man, people bump heads and we move on. Like I guess practically, what does imperfect love look like?
I think that practically, it's so important for us to realize that when we pay attention, and I'm touching, if you're listening and not viewing, you can probably see me touch my hand to my heart, and you can't probably see me put my hand to my abdomen or my solar plexus. And why I'm doing that is that there's a felt sense in the body that says, this really is painful. It's something I need to, or really feel like I must talk to my partner about because it might turn into a resentment here. It might turn into something bigger than, you picking your underwear up off the floor and putting them in the hamper kind of thing. It's really something deeper. And when we do that work to see you really go into that felt sense. How important is this? Is this a control issue where I'm battling for control? Or is this something where maybe my partner triggered something old in me, an old unhealed wound? Or is this something that the two of us, and I talk about this a lot in The Joy of Imperfect Love, my fourth book, because when we take the time to do this self work, then we can go to the partner, in your case, your partner, Claire, and say, Claire, I realize that I'm feeling like you having the TV on. This isn't your issue, I doubt, but you having the TV on while I'm trying, blasting at a level, of 9 out of 10, and me trying to go to sleep and you ignoring that. I really feel disrespected, and that, it hurts my sleep quality. So can we create an agreement that maybe in that hour before bedtime, we keep things soft and gentle so that I can ease into sleep? And maybe if that sound is okay with you, maybe we can get some noise canceling headphones or something. So creating agreements is so important as part of this. But the other part, as I was, mentioning earlier, is really noticing in yourself first. Is this something that has touched a wound in the relationship, or an old wound, in which case it's an opportunity? Or is this something that it's me just trying to get into some sort of control thing, or my partner trying to, and in that case, maybe I just want to leave it go unless it's a long-standing issue. So very broad answer. I hope that, did that touch the point, Joe, or do we need to go?
Yeah, no, that was wonderful. And I think that so often, and maybe you touch on this in the book, that just social media and the idea of you can do better is really pushed, I think, to both men and women of like, don't put up with that behavior. But it's like, yeah, that's true. There's certain behaviors that you should definitely not put up with. But I wonder how much of it's even realistic. Like I've heard, find a man who makes six figures and is over 6 feet. And it's like, that's like 2% of men. So it's like you've just limited 98% of men. And I've heard similar types of things for women. When you think about people authentically showing up in relationships, what are some things that you found in writing the book that helps live out that imperfect love?
So I think it's really lovely that you brought up the 6'6" piece, because I have heard that as well. Six figures, 6 feet. six pack, and there are apparently three others that are about sixes. And to me, when we focus on somebody's exterior alone, what their appearance is and what they have, it says more about us than the other person. That, hey, I'm all about getting this image and this money, that I can have this kind of lifestyle. And so if that is really who you are, and that is something that is vital to you, then I would really suggest, and this is part of, actually, I look at this in both Date Smart and The Joy of Imperfect Love. It's really important for us to go inside and be honest with ourselves. These are my values. These are my priorities. Write them down, whether there are 10 of them, whether there are 100 of them, and see if those values and priorities are really what's important to you on a core level. Because if you're focusing on externalities, a six pack, six figures, 6 feet, how limiting is that? There may be somebody who's 5'10" and who makes, you know, 5 figures, who is an absolute dream come true. And so it's so limiting when we focus purely on those external factors. So I really encourage people to look at what they have to offer in a relationship, and if they are willing to really offer what they want to get out of a relationship. So when you're looking and you're saying, I want my partner to have 6'6", well, do you have that to offer? Are you 6 feet? Do you, if you want your partner to be respectful and kind and loving, now we're getting to my wish list, right? With my partner, before I was dating, I had my list, and I was like, okay, I demand somebody who is honest, respectful, kind, generous of heart. Money wasn't in the equation, because I, as a self-sufficient woman, I am going to do my work. Now, if there's somebody on the other hand who isn't kind, generous, loving, and hardworking, which to me is a very core piece. So when we look at when we're seeking a partner, it's so important to be able to offer that which and not necessarily financially, there's often a financial disparity, but maybe your thing is, I want somebody who's hardworking. And to me, that's much more important than how many zeros are part of the equation. So I hope that makes sense. And I think as practitioners, when we really pay attention to walking our talk, that then clients get our authenticity, and they get that we're coming from a really clean, I'm not perfect. And I will tell my clients and anyone I work with, I'm not perfect. Absolutely not. I'm not a perfect wife. I'm not a perfect daughter, mother, friend. Of course not. None of us are. But, and I point this out in The Joy of Imperfect Love, I work very hard to look at my errors when they arise, find out what I did that caused stress or duress to myself or someone else, no shame, no blame, and do it slightly different the next time.
Now, when you think about imperfect love and people kind of living out your model, what are habits that they're employing, and they may not do them perfect, we probably not, but ones that would move kind of away from some of that media version of love that we're taught, into a healthier, more imperfect love? Like, what are some of those habits that couples will do?
I think one of the first habits is to let go of comparison, because the moment we start comparing our lives, or our partner is comparing our lives to anybody else, to any other couple, real or imagined. And it's interesting, because I see that a lot in my practice, where the husband or wife will say, well, Joe and his wife don't fight, or, you know, Sally and her partner never have disagreements and they're always going on vacations and they have such a lavish lifestyle. That's what I want. We don't know what's inside another person's world. We don't. So not only does comparison harm us because we don't really know what's behind somebody's closed doors. We don't ever. And unless we live with them. But the other piece is then we are constantly putting our relationship at a lower level. We are saying, oh, you gave, this person gave their girlfriend flowers, you didn't give me flowers. Well, did maybe that person got flowers, but did they get a hug at bedtime? Did they get a walk in the park? We don't know. So the minute we start comparing our looks, our relationships, our lifestyle, we're already on a downhill course. And it's better just to stay within our marriage, our relationship, whatever it is, and say, let's work on creating the best us, just us, whatever works for us and makes us feel better and operate better. So I think that that is one of the biggest keys. The other piece, Joe, and I think this is so important, I see it consistently in my practice. I was working with it a couple times yesterday, where somebody's partner will say, I just want a relationship that's easy. I just want it to be easy. I shouldn't have to try so hard. And they're comparing most often in their minds their relationship with a friendship with buddies or a friendship with girlfriends. And, or this one comes up a lot. A partner will say, but everybody at work thinks I'm great. Nobody at work has trouble communicating with me. I'm, this, or I'm a lawyer, or I'm a mediator, or I'm a politician, whatever it is, and I have no trouble at all. It's only you that I have trouble with. Yet the key factor that's missing is vulnerability. When we're at work, when we're with our buddies, we are not necessarily, in fact, often not being vulnerable. So it's in that intimate space that we are vulnerable, where our childhood wounds, where our attachment style and the joy of imperfect love, dives a lot into attachment style. That's where those wounds are getting triggered. That's where it gets difficult. And so, as you were saying earlier, Joe, when you and Claire had this little rupture before bedtime, those ruptures happen in intimate relationships. And sometimes the small ruptures are indicative of something deeper. So I tend to try to heal all ruptures with my partner, but I'm a highly sensitive person. So for me, if I feel that, I think of the old Princess and the Pea story growing up. I'm that person who feels that tiny grain of sand. So for me, if I can't flush something out on my morning walk, or just by meditating for a little bit, then I will eventually go to my partner and say, hey, sweetie, I feel really hurt around this. Can you work through it with me? Or, I felt really disrespected around this. Can you talk it through with me? And sometimes we'll sit and talk about it. Sometimes it's difficult, sometimes not. Sometimes, we're on a walk and we work through it. But that's my personality style. His personality style, he'd be like, let's just not talk about it. But he's really learned in relation with me, in our relationship, to be able to go much deeper than he ever thought he could, and to clear out stuff that often has roots in childhood, as some of my stuff still does, no matter how many thousands of hours of therapy I did, in my earlier years. So I really see it as a privilege. So when we're saying, I don't want a relationship that takes work, when we see it as work rather than a right and a responsibility and a privilege, then it feels differently. But to me, I love maintaining my relationship. Just like I love cleaning my house. I don't always have time, and sometimes I need some help, but to me it's a privilege. And where I learned that, Joe, was from one of my beautiful mentors, Thomas More, who wrote Care of the Soul. He talks in Care of the Soul about how these rituals and taking care of one's home is like a privilege and an honor. And that really resonated with me because I could never figure out why I like folding clothes or vacuuming or wiping counters. It's because I'm giving back and saying, thank you to the home that gives me a sacred space to be in. And it's the same with my relationship. It's surely not a perfect relationship, but I love tending to it.
Mm. What is an example of imperfect love, either that you've seen in clients or people that have read your book or in your own life? Like, what are some ways that that shows up?
So it's such a good question and so multifaceted. We expect and want what I call divine love, perfect love, the kind that, is flawless. Yet in action, love for we as imperfect human beings forget. Maybe somebody's birthday, or maybe we say something out of anger or stress. And so the person who receives that can love back imperfectly and honor the other person's imperfection and say, I felt really hurt when you missed my birthday, or I felt really dismissed when you used that sarcastic comment. And my husband and I have a thing where he'll say, "Can I have a redo?" That's imperfect love in action. By me being gracious and saying, "Yes, honey, go ahead, have a redo, go ahead and restate it." Now, it doesn't do away with the hurt and the sinking feeling in my stomach. And we often, when we look at kiddos, our kiddos, and we often are very generous with them and say, when they make an error, one way to love imperfectly is to say, I see that, you didn't do your homework, and now we have to spend some time when I'd rather be relaxing. But okay, come on, let's go ahead. Let's dive into this homework. I'm here for you. Let me get each of us a cup of tea or hot chocolate, and let's work through this together. That is imperfect love in action.
Mm.
Seeing that things aren't perfect, kiddos will make mistakes, will make mistakes. Maybe we started that conversation a little bit short tempered, but then when we create this, what I call an alchemy of forgiveness, rather than getting steamy hot or shutting down, that is imperfect love.
Mm. Mm. Love that. Well, Carla, I know you have your own podcast and you've written a bunch of books. Tell me about how you find creativity for the podcast and inspiration for it.
So the Imperfect Love podcast came into being as a result of my book, The Joy of Imperfect Love, where I really realized what is the thread here. The thread is helping people see that life is imperfect. We are imperfect creatures. Our bodies are imperfect. Our relationships are imperfect. So it's all about spreading awareness of what self-evolution looks like. There are also, physical evolution, because I've had some great MDs on it who talk about everything from hormone replacement therapy to eating right and back issues to other psychotherapists talking about toxic relationships, narcissism, really important topics. And so I love it as a platform for others' creativity and others, work in the world, as well as my creativity, because every episode I am there to help choose the guest, help channel an organic creative conversation, and learn. I learn from every guest. Every guest teaches me something. So it's just such an uplifting way to move forward. And my in the process, I've really found that listeners, really gravitate toward the show because it is organic. It's not staged. It's not artificial. It is, except for the first intro part, there's no script. It's just two people talking, trying to share their accrued wisdom with listeners.
Mm. So great. Carla, the last question I always ask is if every private practitioner in the world were listening right now, what would you want them to know?
I would want them to know that their well being is so primary, that being able to clear their energy before they start their work day to give to themselves take care of themselves during their workday. And then at the end of their workday, and I still forget to do this at times, clear their energy before they go back into their home life. And having a practice of clearing your energy allows you to give more to yourself, more to your outside of your practice life, and then, of course, more to your clients, more to your work life the next day. So to me, that's just a really critical way of being. And what does that look like? For me, it is an actual energy clearing, and sometimes it's meditation, sometimes it's mantras added on, but taking that really seriously, I just find is so uplifting for me.
Mm, so awesome. If people want to get your books, if they want to follow your work, where should we send them?
They can find me at drcarlamanley.com.
So awesome. Thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you.
I think this is such a great example of just taking our clinical skills and the work that we do and the interests we have and going out into the world with them. I think so many therapists I talk to are like, should I write a book? Maybe someday I'll write a book. And it's like, you have this inside you. Go write a book. Go get it out there. Go shop it around. Go to podcasts. The world needs your voice more than maybe what you're giving. And I don't mean that from a like you're not achieving enough, but I want to just encourage you that if you have a book inside of you, start thinking about it. Make that a fun habit that maybe you give yourself an hour a week and it's your best energy and you put into it and you just see if something's there. You may find that, no, I thought I wanted to write a book and I don't. But I want to encourage you to try these big things because all of us who have written books or who have done TED Talks or have done all sorts of different things, we started at a point where we felt insecure. Not that I have overcome that, but it's like, we all have our insecurities around like, am I good enough? Is my voice good enough? Should I try this? It's okay. Just start somewhere. So I want to encourage you to start somewhere this week. Think through what you might want to put out into the world and take inspiration from Carla and take inspiration from me as we dig into all sorts of topics here. We couldn't do this show without our sponsors. Thank you so much for letting me into your ears and into your brain. Have a great day. We'll talk to you soon.